So Cosworth DFE engine, Formula One car, period colour scheme, looks brilliant, sounds great. How is it going to be driven? Let's find out.
God, well, that was a hell of a start. If that was the start of a Grand Prix, he'd have absolutely nailed it. Lightning reactions to the falling Union Jack, just a little bit of wheel spin, but good propulsion off the line. He'll have good rear grip right now because of that, but the fronts will still be coming up to temperature. Now this is where the aero really kicks in. Look under the side pods, those huge underfloor tunnels, exiting the air out of the large diffusers at the tail of the car, giving a lot of downforce, sucking it down into the ground, and it's through these corners where he will feel the benefit of that downforce.
So the clock ticks down, and does he have a problem? Because yes, the car just seemed to slow, didn't it, coming out of St Mary's? So Greg Thornton, I fear, midway around the lap has hit a problem. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. It's still going, but the pace slightly reduced. Maybe he was fishing for gear, because it looks like it's picked up pace again now.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Engine sounds fine. The car, the chassis, suspension and tyres, that all looks fine. And now it sounds fine. So yeah, I think you're right. Just couldn't get the gear that he wanted at the time that he wanted it. Great shame for Greg Thornton, because I think that could have been a strong lap.
Absolutely right. So he will drop away in the times accordingly, and again struggling there coming out of Woodcote. So clearly there is a problem for the Lotus. He's going to get it to the line, but yeah, a shake of the head of all the times to have a gremlin. But Greg Thornton has done us proud by bringing that car, and yes, exasperation as he comes across the line, but it was within the shootout practice. A glorious Cosworth DFE noise as he accelerates away. Wet tyres trying to give him the extra traction.
Well, I just also saw on the steering wheel a little sticker saying new pads, new brake pads. That is the last thing I'd want to be seeing before going into a one-lap shootout. But he's on it, isn't he?
Absolutely. I mean, again, it shows the commitment here. Forget the value of the car, forget cold tyres. He's pushing. And the noise echoing around the Sussex countryside as he comes then through Ford Water up to the right-handed part of St Mary's.
Fantastic, and this will be the fastest that Lucas has ever been through Ford Water and now through No Name. Nice and tidy into St Mary's. This could be good. This could be good.
Well, the sectors are good, aren't they? An absolute best in the middle. So certainly not wanting anything in terms of commitment, but looking really promising. This an 18.2 to beat. So Lucas Halusa heads towards us. This car, you forget, given its pace, dating back to 1976. Of course, the type of car still racing. There are historic Formula One championships available. He's down, though, in that third sector. And then fishing for a gear,
just hunting for the gears, but also it's a voyage of discovery. You're not quite sure until you make that gear selection whether or not it's the right one. Does find the throttle out of the chicane, nice bit of power oversteer, and he crosses the line. Lucas Halusa 119.4 to go third fastest so far.
Fastest you can go around the circuit. Away blasts the ex-Derek Warwick Arrows and accelerates now up through the gears. Away blasts the Arrows again. Period Formula One car, brilliant noise. Now let's see whether this can go faster than a 1:17.961.
Well, this is the one I've been waiting for. I was absolutely heartbroken to see the car stricken and not participate yesterday. They had fuel vaporization issues, and Padster is fully committed. I didn't hear a lift there, did you, David, on the way down through Ford Water? Rarely have I been quite so jealous of a colleague. This is fantastic stuff. I love the livery on this car. I love this era of Formula One car. The proportions just work. The wide tyres, the wide track, the clean, minimalist aero, no flick-ups. The car's ever so pretty, and this is one of the most memorable with its livery and body shape. Padster absolutely wringing its neck on the run down to Goodwood.
We did the absolute best of anybody thus far in the first sector. Let's see what the lap time is going to be. We'll get the time at the end of the run then. So Nick Padmore twitches the car through Woodcote up towards the chicane. A 1:17.961 is the time to beat, and up towards the line he comes. The lap time, the run we'll get in a moment, but it is the fastest. A 1 minute 9.914. 8 seconds quicker than anybody else.
Wow.
That is insane. The fastest ever lap of anything around Goodwood. With the host closing up, but Sam Wilson now comes up to have a go look for third place against Milicevic. The LDS just there, able to keep the Lotus 2022 at bay, but it's going to be Michael O'Brien in the lead at the end of lap 1, heading into the chicane. Andy Middlehurst is there in second position, but look at it, nose to tail for third as they wriggle through at the end of lap 1. He is pushing as hard as he can, but he gets stuck, doesn't he? He drops back, catches, and then can never quite find a way past the Lotus.
Well, he's got at least 2, probably 3 laps to do it, so all to play for still. Sam Wilson just doesn't quite have the legs, does he, on Middlehurst? But he does have it in the braking zone. Huge advantage. Oh, it's right up there. Again, forcing Middlehurst into the defensive line, into the chicane. That will compromise his exit, but he has a slight power advantage, as we've seen on the previous laps. Wilson tucking into the slipstream. He's now got the benefit of a 2-car tow ahead. It's not going to be enough down the short straight, especially when he's carrying a slight power disadvantage. And yet again, Apex, here is the traffic going to help Wilson. This is going to wrong foot Middlehurst. He can squeeze through. This could be terrible though for Wilson. He gets held back. I think that's Bernardo Hartog's, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So look at the gap there as they crossed the line. A lap ago it was a 10th. Now as they cross the line it is 1.2 seconds. All that hard work gone just by being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
And there's just nothing you can do about that as a driver. You see those situations unfolding and your heart just sinks. Raging with frustration, he would have been through the chicane, but he'll have to get his head down now, refocus, concentrate, because he does seem to have a slight pace advantage over Middlehurst. Middlehurst maybe is nursing a little bit of an engine problem. Smoke not getting worse, but still visible.
Topless is behind him, because as they come onto 11th straight now, number 7 is Nick Topless. In fact, behind him, right behind him, is number 9, Mark Daniel, with a Cooper T45. So that battle's going to rage on as down they come into the right of Woodcote. Mark Daniel lines up to have a go on the inside line. Does he? Yes, he's going to commit, and yes, goes through. That was brave.
Textbook. Absolutely. It's turning out to be a good midfield battle.
I think Nick Topless was quite sensible there. He saw him coming, gave him room rather than really force the issue. But then best of the rest in 6th, and Milicevic using all of the road there through the first element of St Mary's.
Mike O'Brien out front, loving life, isn't he?
Yeah.
Miles ahead with nothing in front of him, just getting his head down, doing quali style laps. A bit of smoke coming out the back Middlehurst car there. I don't think it's anything to worry about. It was just a little whiff. You can see it again there. Now maybe I am worried.
Yeah, more common, isn't it? And he's also being caught. Now, does this explain why he's being caught and why they're dropping away from Michael O'Brien? Andy Middlehurst is being chased hard, being caught by Sam Wilson.
And of course this could mean that Sam Wilson's visor is getting peppered with oil, reducing his visibility. Always very hard when you see smoke coming out of the car in front, because not only can you get quite a lot of oil on your visor, but you worry about adhesion, because of course it might be oil being dropped on the road as well.
Absolutely right. So Andy Middlehurst goes through. That last lap actually was his best of the race, so he's trying to persevere despite the smoke. Sam Wilson dropping back a little bit actually as they went over the line, possibly for all the reasons you say. Their trackside is Bernardo Hartog's Lotus 1821, trying to rejoin, but second and third go through then with this rather elasticated gap. So Andy Middlehurst trying to fend off Sam Wilson, and yeah, the smoke is still there, and that clearly is affecting in some way, Sam, because the gap has stretched out from a lap ago.
It has, but keep an eye on Sam Wilson. He's got a lovely karting style to his driving. He likes to flick the car in on the way out the corner. You see the rear, maybe here, just the rear stepping out on the way into the corner, neutralising the steering input. Deft little corrections, just an inch or two of steering to the right, an inch or two of steering to the left, using the throttle to neutralise it on the way out of the corner.
So can that gap come down? Equally, John Milicevic still doing a very good job of keeping Nick Fennell at bay here as the two of them run down now towards Woodcote, except this is Nick Fennell's best chance, yes, isn't it? He goes to the inside line, he's got the room and he's got the line, and he goes through as Milicevic has to sort out a really vicious slide there.
Very big tank slapper, probably just locked the rear axle on the downshift.
Again, it was a Lotus 49, this 49B, Colin Chapman's idea to see what they could do with extra downforce, but at Montjuic Park it proved not to be a success at all, and there were some sizable accidents that really spelt the end of that. But it was another illustration of Colin Chapman's ingenuity. Let's try this, let's try that. I mean, probably you could argue the best idea was the ground effect. Somewhere there should be Andrew Beaumont in the Lotus 79, which we saw in the assembly area. But then, of course, fast forward onto that. I know we haven't got the car, but the Lotus 81, he tried with the twin chassis. The FISA, as it then was, didn't like, wouldn't allow to race. But yeah, he was constantly, what can we do next? How can I do this? How can I find a way forward? Great bravery.
He was just walking down, what do we call it, the F1 pit lane, and he was just stopping and looking at all the cars. He was on his way to the Lotus awning, but he was just looking at everything. He loves it now as much as he ever has.
And of course, he cut his teeth in national racing over here, but even that was after Goodwood had closed. So it's great that he has this love of the place, this affinity of the place. I think the Lotus 72, and it's nice to have one in the gold leaf colours as well. Most people think of that JPS colour scheme, but it began in gold leaf. Again, compare and contrast sides of the front wheels compared to the back.
Absolutely, and that 72, it won 20 races over its 4-year stint in Formula One. And it's funny though, I do look at that car because of course it's 50 years this year since the death of Jochen Rindt at the Italian Grand Prix. So I look at that car and okay, it's got a rear wing on now, and in Monza in those days Colin Chapman used to take the rear wing off, and he had that dreadful accident of course at Monza. So I find it very poignant to be looking at this car really in this year on the 50th anniversary, almost to the month. It was only last month, wasn't it?
That's right, actually, yes, you're quite right.
To progress the aero, but wonderful. There is the man Damon Hill, who we caught up with earlier in his father's BRM. Damon, who turned 60, would you believe it, just a couple of weeks ago. But one of the things I love about Damon is, yes, he of course won the 1996 World Championship. He's won 22 Grand Prix, 20 pole positions, and yet he loves the history of his family in Formula One. He celebrates his father's successes, and I contrast that with someone like Jacques Villeneuve, who spent his entire career trying to pretend that he wasn't the son of Gilles Villeneuve. And whereas Damon celebrates his father's achievements, and so it's wonderful to see him in the BRM, because you know what it will be meaning to him to be driving October. And there's Mo, and then we're back with the Lotus 49 with its raised rear wing.
Looking at the crash helmet, I think that's Dan Collins at the wheel, regular historic Lotus racer. He's got a nice collection of Lotuses from the Goodwood DFB era and earlier. He was out in the Glover Trophy a little while ago having a big old spin. Looking at the helmet, I think that is Dan Collins at the wheel of that car. And Colin Chapman, just raised the point in the context of aero. I mean, he was a great guy to have in the sport in many ways at that time, because there wasn't really an area that he didn't push, whether it was the lightness of the car, whether it was aerodynamics, whether it was even sponsorship. You know, gold leaf colours. Selling a car to a corporate company like that was unheard of. But Colin Chapman had the eye for the main chance, and he went in that direction as well as everything else on the engineering side.
Yeah, he led, everyone else followed.
Indeed, yeah.
Stirling this weekend with the renaming of the Kinrara Trophy into the Stirling Moss Memorial, but it is quite phenomenal just how many cars he touched and why he was Mr. Motorist.
A James Hunt car or an Ayrton Senna car, that for many is how they should look, and with the great high air box there towering over the driver.
Yeah, and the high air box is the M23 that we're back onto the subject of Emerson Fittipaldi again. He won the World Championship in '74 in that car. Driven by Ben Barnicoat, who is a sports car driver, does a lot of stuff with McLaren. But just tremendous. And this is the M23 of Jochen Mass from 1976.
Yeah, Ben Barnicoat, McLaren factory GT driver, very accomplished driver. Did dabble in FIA Formula 3 again this year, didn't he? He was called in at the last minute. Jochen Mass name still on the side of the car. This is still an actively raced car, races in the FIA Masters Historic Formula 1 Championship. And many surprising things happen, and yet one win was what it took for Checo to win the championship.
And lots of consistency, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The championship that no one wanted to win, and then Renault just carried the baton into the following year, didn't they? They didn't want to win it either the following year, but look at it, it's a beautiful...
You can see how the aero works though, look.
Humid day here at Goodwood. The vortices pouring off the rear wing of that McLaren, but just hearing that on tick over in the assembly area gets the hair on the back of your neck standing up. But I would just find myself thinking, imagine seeing... I wish they'd let these go. I really wish they'd let these go. And in fact, John Watson, if you're listening, I had a bit of text banter with him yesterday about Nick Padmore's lap in the Arrows A11.
Was John quicker by any chance ever?
John, were you quicker? Text us.
Phone vibrates.
John did make the point, though, that F1 cars did used to test here regularly in the 70s. So very early on that year, they started focusing on the 2009 car. If I say the words double diffuser to you, they reckon they'd found a loophole in the regulations. They knew that they had an incredible car on the pieces of paper, in the CAD computers, and they just wanted to see it see the light of day. And then, of course, they did a deal with Mercedes to get the power unit, and the rest, as
the wheel of the Brabham BMW BT52, which was BMW's return to Formula 1 with a 1500cc turbocharged engine. And Nelson Piquet took the 1983 title, arguably because Renault contrived to lose it. Again, it's a very, very slow pace. One of the real perennial problems for a safety car driver is to go fast enough to please the drivers behind, because they are in much, much faster machinery. They, of course, want to be pushing. Pedro Piquet there in that beautiful Brabham. Karen Chandhok in the Williams FW 08C. There's the ex-Jochen Maas McLaren 23 going through. And now the safety car allows them to really pick up a bit more speed.
Well, I think the way they're holding back, this is the driver saying, we don't need this safety car, let's push on. But look at that, look.
Like Mario Andretti converts skills on into, in a sense, different disciplines, oval as well as Grand Prix. Big thumbs up. Fantastic. And is this going to be for the cameras, where you get Jackie Stewart and Emerson Fittipaldi together for almost like a rolling start to come up to end our Formula 1 demonstration?
Yeah, and Damon Hill just behind there. Look at that trio there. Jackie on the right, Damon in the middle, Emo on the left.
It's quite a moment, isn't it?
6 world championships right there. Living legends, all of them. I think they must have agreed to do that.
Yeah, I think you're right.
The way Emo was coming through the field in such a hurry.
You quoted at the start of the day Roy Salvador's great line about Goodwood. I think that's maybe the Brabham.
Oh,
yeah, okay.
The first one. It's not because it's the last thing I saw, but that Brabham BT 52 is a gorgeous car from '83. Just look at it, it's such a beautiful shape. So I'm going to go for the Brabham. How about you?
I'll have a 1982 Williams, please, because for me, growing up watching Saudi liveried Williamses, I just thought they were great cars, and it's another world championship winning car.
True. And I noticed that Jenson Button now on all of his GT racing cars, still a bit of a testing venue for a while. Look at it bottoming out. They've got this thing as high as it'll go, and it's still the front of the T-tray right underneath Gutierrez's bottom is still bottoming out. Yeah, he's going to go for... Oh, he's not. I was hoping he was going to go past the safety car.
Automobile Sport magazine, which is a quarterly, it's a great magazine, and really delve into the history of the car in that. So they bunch up once more, coming down towards Woodcote, and then Esteban Gutierrez is going to be unleashed for one more lap. And one other thing that we touched on over the course of earlier demonstrations was how not only have the shapes of the cars changed, and to a degree that's inevitable because everybody feeds data into a wind tunnel and it will spit out the same result, whereas in the old days you've got your geometry set and your ruler and your pencil to design the car. But how much bigger they've got, how much heavier they've become as well, Tom.
Absolutely wider. I'm almost speechless watching that car going through Madrid. Can you imagine how fast that is? The thing's bottoming out, it's as high as it'll go, but Gutierrez having a lot of fun. But you're absolutely right. And in fact, the contrast of what you're talking about there, David, is so explicit here. You've got that 2017 W08, 112 races with Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas. Hamilton then, of course, claimed his 4th world championship, but it was the wider spec car that had been introduced. And then look at this F2009 Ferrari behind. Look at the difference in width of the rear wings and how much higher the rear wing is on the Ferrari as well. There to see.
Yeah.
So it's not a surprise that, of course, with these current Formula 1 cars, there's so much more grip being generated both underneath it. You've got wider tyres, wider wings, and all of the lap records are falling this year. It's very spectacular to watch. And is Gutierrez going to go? No, he's not. I'm getting too excited. I feel like we're about to come to a restart.
Is that what you mean? The Ferrari, when you look at it compared to the Mercedes, I take your point. It's almost like you want to adjust the perspective of it. It's squished up, isn't it? You need to stretch the car out a little bit.
Yeah. I'm just waiting for Gutierrez to say the safety car's going too slow, this is dangerous, and all the stuff that Lewis Hamilton normally says over the radio. They love complaining about the pace of the safety car, but look, good on you, Gutierrez. He's slowing right down again.
Yeah.
It's just so that he can have a bit of fun.
I think Martin Brundle's enjoying himself out there as well. Martin, another great Goodwood enthusiast, and he's at the wheel of the Brawn, which we were discussing yesterday, made such a story for the one season that it was involved in the sport. Right, Esteban, well, this a restart, goes for it then, accelerates away, everything up to temperature, off he goes, and Marc Genet chases on behind, more sparks fly from underneath the Mercedes. Fantastic.
Yeah, and the racer in Genet doesn't want to be jumped by Gutierrez. Brundle holding back, saying, yeah, no problem. Genet wants to be right on the gearbox of Gutierrez, but Esteban, as you said earlier, completely buying into the whole Goodwood experience, loving the old cars. He's loving driving the cars. In fact, he did say yesterday, just the track is a beautiful track, really, really fast, and something we don't see so much of with the modern tracks. The design, the new modern design of racetrack now is that everyone's concerned about where are the overtaking places, whereas the old tracks like this, where it was just a racetrack and overtaking either happened or it didn't. Great year. It's been driven this weekend by Marc Genet, who is a great friend of Goodwood, loves coming here, in fact, although first time he's driven that car around this circuit, but just he was really excited because, of course, he's driven this car up the hill at the Festival of Speed many times, but to actually take it on the racetrack here is something special. As we're now back with the Brawn, and Ross Brawn was telling me in the assembly area, actually, when we were off camera, that he was not sure about the weather and was he going to come down and watch the car, and he was so excited to be here to see not only his car but to see all of the other cars that were in the assembly area. It's a wonderful collection of cars. You know, Jochen, legend in his own lifetime, and lovely to see him signing the car. And I'm always amazed at how emotionally attached these drivers get to their cars. You know, in the past, I mean, I've seen Emo in tears sitting in a Lotus 72. It really is, it's more than just a machine to these guys. Good times and bad times, and it's an emotional journey.